Good evening, everyone. Namaskar. I, Snehalata Ramachandran, on behalf of Vidya family, welcome you all to episode 16 of the Vidya Knowledge Series. The Vidya Knowledge Series focuses on holistic learning and aims to cover on education, skills, wellness, and empowerment with leaders and innovators from all walks of life. We hope you've been enjoying our knowledge series so far. And today our webinar is on skill building with an interesting topic, unraveling NEP together. I can see the anxiety and doubts in so many of you even now. Does my child have to shift her focus? How does he prepare for the college exams now? What do her future prospects look like? Does the new NEP increase competition? Teaching in the mother tongue till grade 5? Is it old wine in a new bottle? As a teacher, I'm worried. Again, a change. I don't understand. Our distinguished and experienced panelists will unravel the NEP for you. The panelists in today's webinar session are the stars of Vidya who continuously and consistently work to better the best. The year 2020 marks 35 years of Vidya service towards education and empowerment of the less privileged children, youth, and women. Vidya has always believed and practiced holistic education, integrating dance, music, theater, subjects, and activities in the process of learning much before the NEP. The one-on-one learning is a way at Vidya. It's time to meet our distinguished stars for the evening. My first panelist, Mrs. Nivedita Mukherjee, has been a research scientist in genetics, followed by a career in television and print as news journalist and editor in Doordarshan, CNBC, for 15 years before switching over to starting a chain of international preschools leading to IB school. Currently, she's an education advisor and mentor to leadership teams of several K-12 schools and higher education institutions. Welcome, Nivedita. Our second panelist for today is Mrs. Dilruba Kalsi, an alumnus of the Convent of Jesus and Mary, New Delhi, and Lady Shri Ram College. Is an experienced, committed academician, having been in the field of education for more than 3 decades. As principal and director, she has initiated path-breaking reforms to redefine education in the field of curriculum development and teacher training programs. She's a theater enthusiast and has participated in a number of cultural programs. She's been a member of the CBSE inspection team to evaluate schools for recognition and affiliation. She's also been a member of the Electoral College of Thought Leaders for the selection of the Lakshmipati Singhania IIM Lucknow National Leadership Award and the Action Committee of Unaided Regional Private Schools. Currently, she's a National Advisor, India, for Global Youth Parliament. Dilruba Kalsi is a recipient of a number of awards too. The list is really long. Welcome, Dilruba. Mrs. Uma Ramachandran, our next panelist, is an alumnus of IIT Delhi in the area of material science, is a teacher educator, curriculum writer, and a teacher at heart. She is presently engaged in capacity building programs and mentoring teachers, schools, and homes. She also offers advice to various not-for-profit entities dedicated to the field of education. Uma has headed the academics at Indus World School chain for a decade. She's also known for her passion for science education, which makes it look easy and exciting. Since 2005, she has been associated with career launcher the realm of education and innovation. Welcome, Uma. Mrs. Ela Saring, our moderator for today, is seasoned academician with experience spanning 3 decades, involving all facets in the field of education. Ela has had the privilege of occupying leadership positions in new as well as established schools. Her passion for teaching sciences is still Ela's forte. Today, as principal of VIDYA School, she has led the NGO forward successfully. Welcome, all of you. I hand over the mic to you, Ela.
Thank you, Snehata. Good evening, all. I would like to start by asking the first question from Nivedita. Nivedita, Vidya is fortunate to have you as a panelist, as a team member. Nivedita has played a key role in mentoring our teachers and is helping us start Vidya School in Bangalore. Nivedita, the new National Education Policy has laid out a grand design about what education in India should be like over next 50 years. Can you highlight the key areas in the National Education Policy pertaining to the school system?
Thank you, Ela. It has been a privilege to work with Vidya team. Good afternoon to fellow panelists and participants of this session. Thanks for this opportunity to share my views with all of you on NEP 2020. It has taken 35 years and then 5 years more in discussion to come to this NEP 2020. Actually, nearly as many years as I have finished my own schooling, marking the end of an era and beginning a whole new one, what with MHRD itself now being named as the Ministry of Education. Isn't that wonderful news for all of us? Educators would love that. So NEP lays stress on particular kinds of pedagogy, which is experiential pedagogy with integration of arts, sports, storytelling, ICT, while laying emphasis on competency-based learning. I know that in my several visits to Vidya Gurgaon, Dilruba and I have been discussing on how experiential learning is practiced and should be more practiced in Vidya. I think we started way ahead in time. The NEP also requires us to thus emptying of the cup of ideas that we come with to get a fresh serving of new ideas of ensuring that school education ecosystem has the learner in the center and it recognizes teachers as the oxygen for this ecosystem to flourish. The key priorities as we see of NEP 2020 is education for all by 2030. Number 2, all children to acquire FLN, which is Foundation Literacy and Numeracy by 2025. IT integration in teaching and learning methodologies. Bringing 2 crore students back to school. I see a big role of Vidya in that. Number 5 is focus on 21st century skills in teaching, learning, and assessment. And number 6 is new curricular and pedagogical framework, or 5+3+3+4 instead of the erstwhile 10+2. And these priorities, these 6 key priorities actually lead to, again, critical reforms that are required in school education, which, as detailed in the NEP, will be led by, again, 6 particular ways. Is National Mission on Foundation Literacy and Numeracy, universalization of early childhood care and education, that is ECCE, setting up of National Assessment Center, PARAKH, PARAKH, key stage exams in grades 3, 5, and 8. It just gladdens me to see that, you know, the first 4 priorities are very, very focused on the early years where it was most neglected until now. The 5th one is creation of National Education Technology Forum, NETF, for technology education. Actually, it's staring at our face at this point in time. It's a good time to start on that. And accreditation and standard setting. So all these, there are 6 priorities and there are 6 critical reforms that we are looking at, and we'll be discussing in various stages today, all of these spaces. The linchpin, I'm so happy to say, of this entire policy, or maybe I'm a little biased on that, is that early childhood care and education and foundational literacy and numeracy mission. NEP clearly states that unless every child attains FLN in grade 3, the rest policy is irrelevant. The period of 3 to 9 is when more than 7,000 synapses, connections in the brain form every single second. How can we waste that? After that age, it reduces actually to a few hundred. Thus, the importance of exposure to cognitive areas and languages. Before I get much too excited about this, I'll hand it over to Ila back.
Thank you, Nivedita, for simplifying this for everyone. And I agree with you that early childhood years are the foundation, or should be the foundation. So our next question is, related to that only. The foundation years are vital as it is the bedrock, and as you rightly mentioned, should of every education policy, especially in context of underprivileged children, whose lives schools like Vidya transform and thereby support social change in the community. So a large portion of 5-year-olds, majority those who belong to the rural sector and the government sector, move to grade 1 unready and unprepared, posing a development challenge for them. What does the policy say on this matter, especially for socially disadvantaged children? I would request Nivedita, who has an expertise in early childhood education, to emphasize on the same. Over to you.
It's a great one to begin with, Ila, the discussion, and especially for assuaging my excitement, which actually the NEP has actually gladdened my heart with the kind of focus it has put on the early childhood education. For the first time, it has been recognized in a policy with significance. And, as per World Bank's Learning Poverty Report, an astounding 50% of children are unable to read simple text with meaning by age 10. And 33% of the students in grade 3 cannot read small text with comprehension in India. And the number increases to actually 46% by grade 8. And 44% of students in grade 3 cannot use basic math to solve daily life problems in India. And the number, unfortunately, increases to 62% by grade 8. So thus, the literacy and numeracy, the two big areas of learning, we fall back in the very first years of learning. NEP 2020 calls out for foundational literacy and numeracy as an urgent and necessary prerequisite to learning. The FLN has to address shortfalls in learning that are key gateway skills for later grades. The 3-point plan that NEP specifies is making foundational learning the highest priority for the country. The rest of the policy will become irrelevant if FLN is not achieved. So it is prioritized. Then because of that, there will be a launch of national mission on FLN, and it calls for achieving universal FLN by 2025. And there are examples from world over of having been able to do that. I will give some small examples of our own country where we have used certain programs in various states for foundational literacy and numeracy program. For example, Padhe Bharat, Bade Bharat. Then we have Mission Vidya in Gujarat. We have Mission Bunyad in Delhi, Gunvatta in Bihar, Mission Prerna in Uttar Pradesh, and in our very own Karnataka, we have Nalikali. So there has been islands of very good work, foundational work in literacy and numeracy in these kind of missions. So the learnings from these large-scale programs are being put together for the national mission for FLN. And because we have a lot of learning and data from these programs, there is a significant amount of hope that we have enough data, enough experience, and enough knowledge of what is the ground requirement in different states. The good part of NEP is also that the central is going to work with the state to work in these programs, because the realities of different states are very varied.
Yeah, I agree. Every state will have to work out their own formula because, because half of the education is dependent on state, cannot be governed by a single government. So, carrying this on, to ensure that these reforms are successfully implemented, would you suggest that Vidya needs to establish preschools to focus on a child's foundational years that are crucial to educational journey of every child, as you just mentioned? I would request all the panelists to give their views, starting with you, Nivedita.
Well, this we have actually thus started in Bangalore, and we wanted to start in many other cities as well. The specific competencies such as pre-number tasks, sequential thinking, pattern completion, phonemic awareness strongly influence children's learning outcomes in math, language, and cognitive ability. So I have been discussing with the Vidya leaders of how we can set up cognitive development labs and in the Vidya preschools, and address all of these for enabling children to achieve better learning levels in early primary grades. I suggest that Vidya should consider establishing model schools for the foundational stage, as mentioned in NEP, for ages 3 to 8, which includes the Anganwadi, preschool, Balvatika, and grade 1 and 2, or that entire band. And if we can set model schools for the socioeconomic demographics of our children, it is the best model for the rest of the country to follow, because when we design for the disadvantaged, everybody else, it works better for all else.
Thank you, Nivedita. Dilruba ma'am, your views on the same?
I feel it's imperative to have preschools because most of the child's cognitive development takes place till the age of 6. And when we admit children in class 1, like is the policy in most government schools, they've missed out on 3 years of crucial learning. And the psychomotor development that should have taken place at that stage is got neglected. So children enter school at a late stage, and we've deprived them. So I think we've really failed them in not giving them the critical, crucial stimuli, environment that they should have been offered to optimize their potential.
Thank you, Dilruba ma'am. Uma, your views?
Yeah, I think.
On the same?
Hi, Ila. I think not repeating the already stated thoughts by Nivedita and Dilruba ji, I actually second it, because the first 8 years I feel are the most formative years in learning of a child. And we are talking about a holistic education.
Yeah.
The entire NEP's focus is on making the assessment and education holistic. Now, if we leave out the prime years, possibly then building on that fundamentals could be very challenging. And I feel at a very young age, to me, the two most important skills to be nurtured are socio-emotional and language. And I think there is no space better than Vidya to do it. So it makes it all the more important that we capture, and even if we do a beautiful induction of multilinguistic, as Nivedita was talking about, and enable mind mapping and basically allow exciting the child, I think we have already done half the work. Otherwise we have to start it at grade 1 or even at a KG. Possibly it could be a little more challenging. The child can be nurtured much better if we touch him at a very early age. So yeah, I think why not? Why not the early schools?
Thank you all. So looking forward to establishing, a model preschool for everyone in India. The National Education Policy places a welcome emphasis on holistic, learner-centered, flexible system that seeks to transform India. Who better than Dilruba ma'am to answer this question? Ma'am is a seasoned academician, has decades of leadership experience in established schools, and is an indispensable part of Vidya. Dilruba ma'am, in what way is NEP a landmark document in redefining education at the middle and senior school level?
Thank you, Ela. And thank you, Vidya, for giving me an opportunity to express my views on this very important forum. The NEP has finally seen the light of day after 34 years of intense deliberation. Looking at the NEP and its focal point, the document very categorically states that the aim is to make India a global knowledge superpower and create citizens who will be productive, critical thinkers, and fast evolving members of a global society. They will contribute towards building an equitable, inclusive, and progressive society in the country. So that's the key of the NEP. Now, Nivedita has spoken about how the NEP is going to impact early childhood education. I would like to talk about the transformation that we can see at the middle and the senior school level. Looking at the middle school level, the classes that get covered are class 6 to 8, and the age group is 11 to 14. What are the key changes that the NEP envisages? While the NEP has envisaged some path-breaking initiatives, it also encompasses some contentious issues. Looking at the path-breaking initiatives, a very important feature at this stage is vocationalization of education. And a national vocational integrated committee is going to be set up to formulate the program. How is vocationalization going to play out? So the NEP has said that every child from class 6 onwards will study a vocational course, and they've listed a host of vocational courses, including carpentry, gardening, metalwork, pottery, and where are the children going to learn these vocational skills from? They're going to learn them from the local vocational experts. So it's going to be all hands-on, experiential learning. They've recommended a 10 days bagless period, during which time the internship will take place. And also they've given the flexibility of doing your internship during the holidays. There's going to be an online vocational center where vocational courses will also be available for the students to avail of. So vocationalization of education, a very important step forward in the NEP. Along with vocationalization, coding has been introduced. And we all know that coding is a vital 21st century skill. We'll be talking about coding a little later. But at this point in time, I just want to tell the viewers that coding is a great step forward in the NEP, and it's going to be introduced at class 6 and carried forward with greater depth right till the children reach class 12. Another feature at this stage is digitization of education. So the NEP is high on digitization, and a dedicated unit is going to be set up that will formulate the digital content, set up digital infrastructure, and build capacity. Digitization of education is imperative for the world to move ahead, because we're living in a world of high tech. And I like to bring in at this point that at Vidya, during the pandemic, we went totally digital. There were all our classes were held online. The teachers upscaled their skills, and e-learning platforms were set up to transact the curriculum. So Vidya kept pace with whatever the NEP is planning to formulate. Apart from digitization, the curriculum will also undergo a change. And again, I'd like to say at this point that VIDYA maybe has moved ahead of the NEP in introducing an experiential, hands-on, activity-based, project-driven curriculum. It's a totally interactive curriculum, and the stress will be on competency-based learning. So all classroom transactions are going to focus on evaluating skills and capabilities. Again, VIDYA is in sync with the NEP, but like I said, maybe we're a little ahead of the NEP. So because our founder, Mrs. Rashmi Misra, did conceptualize this. Of course, she's a visionary, so it was conceptualized even before NEP has put it into action. Now, that's as far as middle school goes. What about senior school? Now, senior school covers classes 9 to 12, and the age group is 14 to 18. So senior school, the NEP is divided into two parts, class 9 and 10 as one, and class 11 and 12 as the other component of senior school. Now, what are the changes that we can hope to see here? A plethora of changes. First of all, the NEP, and this was long needed, has said that courses will not be siloed and compartmentalized. So there's going to be the fine demarcating line between science, humanities, commerce, vocational studies. There's going to be no such thing as extracurricular and co-curricular. It's all going to be one integrated, holistic curriculum. And children will have great flexibility and choice of subjects, and they also have the option to exit after class 10 and join at a later stage in class 11. So NEP is giving the students this flexibility also. As far as the curriculum goes, it's going to be based on ideation, application, problem solving. And the curriculum is going to be curtailed for most of the subjects to lay stress on critical thinking, discussion, and analysis. As far as the evaluation goes, Nivedita has spoken about PARA, which is the pre-assessment review and analysis of the knowledge of holistic development. So the focus is on holistic education, right? But for the board classes, the NEP says that the exams can be annual, you can follow the semester system, or you can have the modular board system. And the focus will be on testing application skills, your conceptual knowledge, and not rote memorization. NCC will be a vital component of senior school education. And this is going to be formulated under the aegis of the Ministry of Defense. So they've integrated NCC also into the curriculum. As far as physical and mental health goes, there's a fair amount of emphasis. NEP says that mental health, along with physical health, is critical for the overall development of the child's personality. So apart from introducing nutritious breakfast, there's going to be a lot of stress on nutrition and healthcare. So for the juniors, for the primary school students, they're going to introduce a nutritious breakfast apart from the midday meal. And they're going to be regular health checkups. That's right from class, from preschool to class 12. And report cards are going to be tracked in terms of the healthcare development of all the students, so that any discrepancies, any ailments, right, any anomalies that they're finding in the growth and development of the child can be addressed at the right time. So strict tracking of the child's mental and physical health. the scholarship portal will also be enlarged. So the NEP talks about scholarships to a vast number of students, but the key feature now is that there's going to be rigorous tracking of the child's academic progress right through the duration that the child avails of the scholarship. And this is done to ensure that the child remains academically oriented and has all the skills and capabilities that NEP is talking about. So in a nutshell, this is the curriculum assessment for middle school and for senior school. And of course, a lot depends on the way it's going to be executed. Thank you.
Thank you, Dilruba ma'am, for simplifying this for all of us. Would any of the panelists like to add on to what ma'am has said? Thank you. Now, I would want to unravel what NEP has in store for higher education. I would address this question to Uma. Uma has brought magic to Vidya as a volunteer and has been mentoring our teachers and guiding our children in their career choices. Uma, the policy has a clear objective to make higher education in India at par with international standard. How is the higher education envisioned in NEP?
Okay. Hi, thanks, Ila. That was too humbling. I think just taking off from where both in terms of the early childhood care and the middle school and the senior school focus, which NEP is trying to change, I would like to look at it that it's a massive 840 plus page document, Now, as Dilruba ji just mentioned, to make it possible, I think the magic lies in how will you convert that 840 pages into 8 bullets and it's workable at your school. I think that's the magic of execution. We have seen very many beautiful educational policies coming up, and obviously I think this is one of the most comprehensive, and we love to give our heart out to execute it. Just to talk about the higher education, I feel any country's educational policy, I think its primary purpose is to make its education competitive globally. And so is NEP, NEP's vision, I think, is exactly the same, more so in the higher education level, because the entire focus has been, or at least as per the document, is towards making India's education competitive globally. To achieve this, there are very many things which have been laid out. But I think one of the most important, or rather a tall target which the government has taken is in the next 15 years, it's planning to increase the gross enrollment ratio, that is GER, from the present 26% to 50%. It's a massive change in number, But we can do it with all the reformations which have been spoken of. So just to bring the inside out approach, I thought I will spend 2 minutes on really understanding how do you make this change happen. If you really look at it, the one major factor which is going to play a big role in higher education segment is completely changing global mobility, So when I'm talking about global mobility, basically you're talking about a complete increase in the way the people are going to move in and out of various countries to basically pursue education. So if you look at many European countries like Spain, Switzerland, or for that matter, Holland and New Zealand, even for that matter, US, many of these countries, demographics are actually nosediving. And the geriatric population, that is the percentage of older people, has been increasing, So what's happening is, because of this, there is a huge fall in the enrollments in the universities, and it is creating a massive vacuum. And I think this vacuum is what is going to initiate the complete global mobility. There is a very clear indicator in very many, if you have been glued on to blogs and watching a little progress in education, that even in countries like US, almost 50% of their colleges, they are looking at shutting down, okay? Because fundamentally, the enrollments have fallen, because of lack of too many 18-plus-year-olds who are entering into universities. So, under such scenario, I think the world is going to look at Asia. Asia, in terms of its GDP or economy, it holds 80% of the GDP, So, and when you look at Asia, there are only two countries we are talking about, India and China. And between the two, surely India is a better brand, fundamentally because of its culture and more attractive as a brand in terms of its demography, culture, and practices. So India will surely be a very, very, very important player in higher education segment in the next 15 to 20 years to come. So, to just make sure, I think this is a very important thing, because India is talking about creating a completely competitive global higher education university format. Okay, so first important is to increase an enrollment. I think they have to bring in certain changes in the way we look at our own country and our education policies, So if you're talking about becoming a competitive global player, you need to become attractive for the entire world to look at you. And to allow these two-way transformations or movements between children in a very easy format. Hence, there are a bunch of things we need to do, and this is what NEP has envisioned, okay? So while the higher education will expand globally, because obviously they don't find students coming into their local demographics, they're going to go out of it. So possibly through alliances or operational partners, or even for that matter, some of our Indian big leaders might just go and grab the universities and get full ownerships. So to allow this movement of students to and fro, foreign students coming into India and Indian students coming in, when these happen, the costs are also going to come down. So we have to be one of possibly the best cost benefit kind of a country, which gives extremely high quality education through partnerships and various kinds of formats Now, for that to happen, the first and formative change we need to bring in is standardize our tests. Which the first step has already been done. This year's NEET and JEE to a very great extent has been tried to. So we cannot have too many examinations within the ecosystem. So this is what the education policy has planned to do. Firstly, bring in a national testing agency, because testing is an extremely unique skill. It cannot be done by everybody. Like how in similar lines is ETS, which happens in the US. So basically you have an NTA, which is going to come up with standardized tests. And along with NRA, unified recruitment processes and recruitment tests will also be conducted. So basically all the testing, the entry levels will be standardized into various other courses need to be standardized, so that like for example, if JEE is in India, it must be acceptable in the US, like how I accept SAT, we should make it acceptable in the US, or for that matter, CAT, whatever kind of test, So that's first mission, and they're trying to achieve it by bringing in NTA. And we have really very, very high level brains which would be working in NTA, people from IITs and the ex-CBSE chairman, the Vineet Joshi, they're going to lead, and it's already in the process. Okay. Now, the second, I think, very important aspect is how do we make our education, how do I improve the employability of our education? It is very important that the 21st century needs are to be married into our education. Now, this can only happen when there is world academia and the industry starts connecting with each other. There are bridges which are built between the colleges and the industry, and possibly this is possibly going to happen in the most evolved stage of NEP. So we are talking about the span of next 15 years. That's where we would possibly be realizing this. So where the job creators will actually possibly list down the top 10 skills, or for the top 10 job requirements, what kind of skill sets need to be trained, and possibly start directing the college curriculum. I think only then this change can be brought about, and build in summer internships, start taking a lot of ownership into the college. Now, for that to happen, we need to give a lot of autonomy to the colleges, So I'm just trying to demystify the entire thing. So this is what the vision of NEP is. Possibly what they're trying to do is, over a span of next 15 years, we're talking about by 2035, slowly the accreditation has to be weaned off. Where you're not saying that there are colleges which will be accredited to Delhi University, another accredited to Andhra University, or for that matter. So it will not, slowly it will be weaned off, and there will be more autonomy. Hence, colleges will become responsible to will be answerable to the employability of their courses. Now, so that is the most important thing. We will talk about accreditation later, possibly, but that's what more autonomy is what NEP is focusing on. So it will remove the UGC, AICT. They'll all form just a single body, and then there will be various wing structures of this body which will take care of possibly the funding and the accreditation and various other aspects of the higher education. Now, when we are talking about the third important thing is innovation inside higher education. Innovation is very important to make it employable, or for that matter, to make higher education more attractive for international students. So, ideally, NEP is visualizing colleges to become the labs for the real world research problems, so that there will be more research, more internship, more summer trainings actually happening in. And this is where possibly the world will come together, So this is what is envisioned. We just hope it is executed. But for that to execute, it is in a phased out manner. Now, so standardized NTA, NRA, and for that matter, removing accreditation, bringing in more of a collaboration with the industry and academia, and along with that, the course structures have been planned in such a way that all the undergrad courses we're talking about is a 4-year courses. They have multiple entry and exit possibilities, and fundamentally because one is looking at creating an earning and a learning model, like how Dilrubaji was talking about 10th and 11th, we can exit and come back. So depending on the entire 4-year course is basically built on credit model, and for every year you will have certain number of credits, and then possibly that credit can be banked in like a bank account, and you keep adding on to it, and whenever you want to come back and continue your credits, you can always do that. So all that is basically be planned out. So if you do a 1-year course, you might possibly be getting a certification, and the 2-year course might give you a diploma, advanced diploma side of it. 3-year will be a degree, and if you're a 4th year, possibly you will also be involved in kind of an industry research. So degree plus industry. Now, post that, you could have a 2-year post graduation, again, where you can exit after 1 year or do the 2 years and then further yourself into the research. So we are talking about a unified entry processes, both at a postgraduate and undergraduate, and some courses might just get weaned off. Now, like for example, postgraduate, maybe GATE might just become one unified exam, and post any undergraduate, if you want to go out, there will be all these exams which are used by recruitment agencies, or NRA is trying to put it all together. You will have a common base test, then later there could be a skill test, So slowly corporates will also talk, take roles in trying to define the kind of skill sets we need to really check, and obviously that has to come into the college. We need to nurture, So we are talking about a complete revamp of higher education, and which builds more industry connects, more autonomy, and possibly finally maybe you might have, like today in the US you see Ivy League and Community League. We're talking about the Merus and the single specialization colleges, maybe all the colleges, which is about 40 to 45,000, put into in a bucket, and possibly you shake it and give a rank. Top 20% might be the Ivy Leagues of India, which could be the Merus or multi-specialization, which offers a range of courses. And then there could be some which are all vocational colleges, which haven't got really good, high amount of focus in India as of today. Maybe that will start getting in. So basically you're talking about a continuous learning model, and maybe exit to earn, come back whenever you want to, and possibly make it more relevant and meaningful for the entire world. And actually, even you walk out into any other course and join some community college, your credits of India will be given a certain value. Or maybe the moment you finish a course from an Ivy League, maybe I directly get into employability into any other country, So we are talking about building those bridges and making it more open, more acceptable. That's the kind of vision NEP has. So obviously, it's a lot of work, and it is going to take time. So in the next 15 years is what we are going to see the most evolved system. But the start would be maybe in 2022. That's when they're planning to do the first entry-level examination into the undergrad courses. So this is in a gist. It's quite an amount to really even sit back and work, but hopefully it will happen. It has to happen. Because the meaning.
Thank you, Uma. And I agree with you that standardized testing is the way forward. And coming on to the next question, addressing education inequality and ensuring inclusive education is a challenge. I would request Dilruman to address how national education policy is a move ahead in the direction of inclusive education.
So that's another very redeeming feature of the NEP, that it's working towards establishing a just, equitable, and inclusive society. So in the NEP, there are new provisions for children with disabilities. And children with disabilities are now going to be admitted into the mainstream with the support of special educators who will be trained in cross-disability. And along with that, they will have specialized technology and other support mechanisms that would be necessary for them to forge ahead with the disabilities that they have, and also to meet the requirements of school education. So inclusiveness in the form of admitting children with disabilities. They no longer now have to go to special schools. They will be admitted into regular schools. They will form part of the mainstream education, and they will be accepted, and they will obviously have some standardized differential assessment modules. But the acceptance is the important factor, and the sensitivity and the tolerance that we'll be building up in our students to accept differently abled children, I think is a great step forward, because I noticed that even though it's mandatory for schools to admit a certain percentage of children with some kind of disability, most schools are not doing it. And when children are admitted with any kind of disability, they're kind of ostracized. They're looked upon as being different. They're not even accepted by teachers, leave alone being accepted by their peers. So it's a marathon challenge for them and for their parents. Now, as India is moving towards a just, equitable society, as what the NEP says, that this present NEP, I'm very happy, is bridging the gaps that existed in the earlier system in terms of access, equity, quality, affordability, and accountability. So those gaps are now being bridged. Apart from disability, the NIOS has also been given the task of setting up high modular sign languages. So high modular sign languages are going to be, modules are going to be set up for, again, people with disability, and they're going to be of a very high level. So the NIOS has been entrusted with that task, and the sign language will be used for teaching basic subjects. Looking at children from the underprivileged background, the NEP has also said that they're going to be providing free boarding facilities along the lines of the Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalayas, right? For providing children who come from underprivileged backgrounds, free boarding facilities. I think that's a very important step forward, because a lot of these children, but if you look at VIDYA, VIDYA is a model school for underprivileged students, where they get the best facilities, they get a free midday meal, and they have amenities which I think some of the best public schools don't have, right? Of course, Ila can vouch for that. So NEP is thinking about it now, that they need to reach out to the disadvantaged segment in a more magnified way, and help them to at least get basic amenities to make their learning outcomes more effective. They haven't left out adults. So all school complexes will be converted into adult literacy centers after school hours. So they're also trying to get in mothers and adults who are thirsty for education, who aspire to be at least literate. And here again, I like to say that we have an adult literacy program at IIT Delhi, where some of our women have graduated to, when I say graduated, they've passed class 3, 5, and 8 from totally being illiterate, not being able to even read the alphabet. They're now proud recipients of certificates which say you passed class 3, you passed class 5, you passed class 8, and they have a working knowledge of English also. So, when they move out, they can read signages. So the stress has been on English conversation, communication. Yes.
There's a question in the question answers section, which is there's a question from a special educator who's keen to know what happens to the huge number of special students who are capable of completing senior secondary often, and often they can do college education also. So what about those children? Is there a provision for them as well?
So the NEP has not touched upon it, but children with various disabilities can take subjects of their that are in tandem with their ability, their aptitude. So their subjects, they can all sit for the class 10 exam. They can opt for art, fine arts. They can opt for courses like needlework, right? Some of them have excellent IT skills. So I think the special educator who's asked that question will vouch for it. They have excellent IT skills. So they drop subjects like math and science, which calls for more cognitive thinking. And even now, CBSE gives them the option of choosing subjects according to their interest and their aptitude. They're also given the opportunity to have a writer. So children who have disabilities can also have a writer. So these are the opportunities that CBSE does offer, and I'm sorry to say that NEP has been silent on it, but CBSE does give these opportunities to children with disabilities.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for answering the question. So, at some point, Dilruba ma'am, all of you have touched upon assessment. So, Nivedita, my next question is to you. The policy brings in a well-defined assessment architecture that can prove transformative, and it possesses a key stage assessment in grade 3, 5, and 8 to track the progress throughout the year. How is that going to help in improving the quality of education in years across the country, Nivedita?
Ila, as teachers, we understand very well that assessment to test the achievement of learning outcomes is a key way how we can track progress throughout the school years. What we assess, how we assess, what are the tools of assessment, what are the criteria or rubrics of assessment that are set, is the one of the only ways to check out the learning outcome. So the key will be to tune in the assessment itself. The three key stage assessments that have been identified in this NEP 2020 are grade 3, grade 5, and grade 8. And they would have some defining features which will be different from the kind of tests that we have been executing. They will test the basic learning outcome of core concepts. And the core concepts are defined in quite detail. Higher order thinking skills, which is ability to analyze or synthesize thought processes or be creative, and definitely apply the learning in a different situation. Where you have learned in one situation, if you can apply the same learning in another situation, you know that the learning outcome has been achieved. So that has been specified as one of the aspects of the testing in these grade 3, 5, and 8. The second is it will move from, as we say, know that the lower level of Bloom's taxonomy, which is rote memorization, knowledge, the fundament, just the knowledge and understanding kind of a requirement. That is taken as a given. When you have a class, when you have a lesson, it's a given that the knowledge and understanding will happen. Whether you can apply or synthesize or create or evaluate the situations is what will be tested, which doesn't mean that you will move away from knowledge and content, but it means that the testing will be on not rote memorization aspect, which it was mostly, especially in the lower grades, it was mostly on how much memory power. Actually, a lot used to be there in even the higher education. I have seen the IIT, JEE tests also, a whole section of it used to be how much you know. So this will move away from that. And the assessment would be conducted for all schools, not just only government or only private, but across. An independent body is going to conduct the assessments across government and private, both schools, and it will be very data-based. This will be collected and used for continuous monitoring and improvement of the educational institutions, of the curriculum framework, and of the testing, most importantly, of what will be the content of the test, what will be the methodology of the test that will be tested. Actually, many leading education systems around the world have these learning markers, and NEP members have looked into it in great detail, which ensures that every child achieves grade level competency is how it is being defined. You know, in Mexico, there is something called NLANS, and grade 3, 4, 5, 6, and 9, they have these exams. The Chile has SIMCE, and it has grade 4, 8, and 10, and thereby they publicly disclose the school quality. The school is actually accountable publicly for their quality. Their PISA ranking has improved between 2000 and 2015 as a result of this test. UK, developed country, let us take, they're called also key stage exams, and grade 2, 6, 9, and 12, they take it, where it is where they assess the key competencies in language and mathematics in both grade 2 and 6, for sure. There, because of the data being available, again, it has significantly improved over the years. Australia also, it's called NAPLAN, and the grades 3, 5, 7, and 9 performance is measured on competency, and proficiency level, not recall and content level. So it has been proven in, in large parts of the world of how these key points, when they are tested, it helps in overall school curriculum framework improvement, which essentially is, and you do by design, understanding by design, because you know what is the assessment going to be, and then you teach to it. You don't teach to test, but you teach to assessment. You teach to competency. Ila.
I agree, Vedita. Assessment is the key to bring about the change that you want. It's the best way to do it. So just briefly, Uma, Nivedita, what Nivedita has said just now, use higher order thinking skills, critical thinking, conceptual clarity. Is a focus from testing only the knowledge to this. So understood, but how do we ensure, tell us briefly, that this completely new system of assessment as defined by the, how do we get teachers aligned to it?
Yeah, I see this, I see this a model of assessment as a CCE plus, okay? Because CCE had talked about all of this, except that we did not have modular board exams, and we did not have these kind of checkpoint exams at 3rd, 5th, and but otherwise we did talk about continuous and comprehensive format of assessing, learning unique tools, using unique tools of assessments, and getting into understanding how to design an assessment. So I feel the biggest challenge is your execution challenge. So if we have, my perspective is, if you want to have a holistic assessment on a child, we have to have a 360-degree participation in assessment. Now, when I say 360-degree, it is not just the teacher who is going to assess. The child has to assess himself. It was also in CCE, self-assessments, and the peer assessments, and parent also participating, which means your report card has to completely get transformed. As Nivedita was talking about, we design assessment and take learning towards achieving those goals. I'm talking about reforming your report card, because ultimately that is what is going to shape your assessments, And so that is one. So you need exhaustive trainings. I feel, teachers have to soak themselves in, fundamentally because they need to really understand the tools to be used, the rubrics to be used, how to structure your rubrics to actually understand the outcome-driven assessment. And thirdly, I think the student has to be taught how to understand a rubric, otherwise he understands today a 95 on 10 on 100, he knows what it is, but he might not really understand what does he mean by a rubric based assessment. So it's the onus of the teacher to basically teach, and also how to do peer-peer assessments in a most sensitive ecosystem, in a very, very sensitive format, because we are talking about a holistic assessment. So I think the real challenge will be execution. But yes, it is very seamlessly possible if we help teachers completely get trained and soak themselves in, saying that I don't know about anything about assessment, let me start at an ABC. Because if I am talking about even a present day teacher, if she has to create a 100 marks question paper and she has 10 questions of 2 marks each, there is a rubric which builds onto that. And only about 20% of teachers use the rubric to actually grade it. So if we really say remove the marks and just use the rubric to really understand the learning outcomes, it takes a lot of energy, and I think training is the key. you have to train them on tools. You have to, I mean, it's an exhaustive training. You know, you have to basically give them everything, or possibly say, these are the people who will design assessment, these are the people who learn. I mean, I don't know. I mean, ideally a teacher has to get trained on everything. I think that's the key.
Thank you. Thank you, Uma. So earlier in the discussion, we talked about the integration of technology at all levels of learning. You know, so from Nivedita, I would like to ask you, what is NEP to offer to further strengthen the deployment of technology in teaching and learning as seen currently? Has the shift to tech-enabled teaching come to stay?
Well, Ila, in current times, it's a clear writing on the wall.
Yeah.
It has been recognized that there is a need for dedicated institution at both central and state level right now in right urgent situation to strengthen the deployment of technology in teaching and learning. You know, some of the things have been, the digital initiatives have been existing, are the Diksha, the IIT PAL, the PAB VIDYA, Swayam, and with the institutions in centrally, like the Central Institute of Educational Technology, CIET, and the State Institutional Educational Technology, SIET, these have been existing. But what NEP has proposed that the Institute for EdTech must actually do three things. Now that it's very clear that we just have to, I mean, there's no question of when should we do it, what should be the methodology. It is just how soon can we do it.
Yeah.
So it has actually given three features for the EdTech Institute that is going to come forth. And I'm very much looking forward to it, as all of us in this ecosystem, is that this institute has to actually champion the EdTech vision. You know, it has to do advocacy of the vision and strategy at the national level. It also has to support the states with technical know-how around both hardware and software. Otherwise, especially in private schools, government schools go in one direction. The private schools have directionality of like a budget school and premium school and super premium school. And so this EdTech is for this school. The child is not either or. The
in
fee
fact,
doesn't,
I
the
agree.
fee is not should not be deterministic factor in implementation.
I would like, sorry. I agree.
Go ahead.
In fact, I would like to, you add on to what you were saying. In fact, I would like all the panelists to address this. Privileged schools or schools which have just what you were saying just now, whatever, they can make it work, provided, because they have the tools and everything in place. But how would we bridge this gap as regards to the digital divide you were just mentioning between the, as you said, economy or money shouldn't be the one, but often it is. How will we bridge this divide between rural schools and school for underprivileged school? How do we ensure that they get the best access to the digital education or digital world that we're talking about?
I'll give a small example, and then we'll move. We can have Dilruba and Uma. The small example in, there are examples in Korea and Indonesia, both with when they set up this central body. In 2015, in 2019, Korea set up their body. By 2015, South Korea had near ubiquitous access to ICT equipment and internet in schools across. In Indonesia, okay, so, South Korea is at one level, Indonesia is at another level. Indonesia in 1978, they started. By now, 60% of the schools in Indonesia have requisite ICT infrastructure. Close home in Kerala, we have the Kerala Infrastructure and Technology of Education since 2001. This has currently resulted in over 5,000 schools under the high-tech project, which have ICT equipment for grades 8 to 12. It's not a small number to sneeze at. It's not a large number, but it's a number enough that will give us data and confidence that if it is focused upon, it can be done across if there is a good unanimous thrust towards this.
So now I would like to address this question to all the panelists. Is it possible to implement all the recommendations of NEP? What major changes will Vidya do to align with the recommendations? What are the changes that we should do to align with the recommendations? Yes, Nivedita? Then we can move on to others.
See, Vidya has very important components which Vidya has been doing. We have done experiential learning. We have done technology integration hugely. We have done vocational learning. We have involved adult education as a part of our. So the key components of NEP in spirit and in letter, we have incorporated. Where we will have challenge is just professional development, which is the same challenge as across board that all the schools will have. So we just have to hunker down and sort it out and look at teacher development full on face.
Any other person would like to add something to this?
My thought was exactly same. Teacher development. I feel with the, I mean, obviously to me, I think I looked at COVID as a situation which has opened up the whole world. Now the world is all at our feet. Use technology, and I think the technology in a most effective way so that it becomes cost effective for us, and bring as much beautiful industrial partnership through technology, because reasons why people were not able to come onto the ground to do volunteering was possibly lack of time. You know, now you actually can bring it in and do invest on teacher education through volunteering, you know. So I thought that is one thing, but otherwise I think fundamentally many aspects which NEP is talking about we have already been doing, you know. So I think it's just a matter of strengthening people, you know. That's, I feel.
And
Yeah,
I just add to that. So I think the NEP has taken cognizance of the fact that technology should be a very important component in transacting the classroom curriculum. So they have set up a National Education Technology Forum. And this forum is going to drive the program. So it's not as if they've just touched upon the program and said inclusion of technology in classroom transactions. They've thought about it, they made a determined effort to ensure that it will be implemented at every level of school education. And I think at Vidya, we have, like Nivedita said, included technology. I'd just like to add to that, our classrooms have smart boards, right? And our children are very tech savvy. Our teachers bring their lessons on pen drives and run it through their laptops, and the whole lesson comes alive on the screen. So there is a lot of application of technology. So we have, I think, gone ahead with what the NEP envisages.
Ila, one more thing, possibly, I mean, I was thinking, you know, for long, I thought maybe at Vidya we could do it. You know, I thought maybe children at grade 9 and above, we can nurture them to write research papers. Okay, so pick up the real problems at Vidya, do build connects with, obviously you have such beautiful connects with the institutions and the industry, and possibly push children to really publish papers, you know, because that's going to be the next gen kind of education. You know, they can do paper presentations all over the world and talk about it. And similarly, vocational training, we can bring in a lot of industry connects and make it more job, because after 10, if there is a child who wants to exit, earn money and come back, I think we should open that opportunity to the child and give him ample. So that vocational industry connects can be really be built in, you know, that's something which we could do possibly.
Thank you all. I would like, see, though national education policy talks about how teachers are going to be trained in future. I would just like all of you to touch very briefly upon what about the teachers in the existing ecosystem, you know, how to ensure what kind of training and how is it going to be? I mean, if I can have your views, Nivedita, first.
Can I take it?
Yeah, all of you.
So because I think there was one part of a question which I thought possibly we can just cover it here and then miss it, you know. So, which talked about jobs and the kind of what would happen to people. So, there are a lot of questions which I saw, possibly what will happen to my BA degree? Will I lose my job? What will be the, I think, I feel possibly every piece of effort human has put in, whether it's in terms of studying, learning and acquiring degrees, or for that matter, number of years of working, all of it will have its own credit weightages, I feel, and they will also be banked. The processes must be bringing in the kind of credits which each of us would get it. Nobody needs to be scared of losing jobs, because we are here talking about enabling employment, So we are talking about employability. So every person who has learned a few things, he will capitalize on that and he will move on. The second thing is, I think like what has been now, possibly it's very unstructured, unless you've given a money and then bought a BA degree. So you will be passively compared. Have you done a 4-year BLEd course under a Delhi university, or you've done a regular course? Depending on, you've been working as a teacher, you've done a possibly a correspondence course or from an open university. All of it would have its own weightage. So I feel the structures and salaries, we'll have to wait. Government policies will keep waiting, 8th pay, 9th pay. The school will have certain amount of load on that. But yeah, I think why not, teachers should get paid as long as somebody gives us funds. But yeah, I think every learning and the professional development, that's what we're talking about. You can exit and you can come back. So there is a certain cyclical credit system which is being given to exit. There is every point of exit and entry as a junction. Okay, there is an exit test which you have done possibly as a part of your learning program. You got your credits and you walked out. At entry, you will have to do something to get in. Maybe if you have worked and your work experience might bring your entry back. So there are going to be that. I think that process is, so if you look at an NRA recruiting agency, they have been bringing in a lot of courses into their gamut. Still, there are some more which have to get added. So possibly a BEd degree will be a 4-year degree. At the end of 1 year, you exit and then take some test like a CTET and whatever NET. They are all going to come into that gamut of your unified recruitment process, So they will exit, they'll come back. So it's like so you cannot really say how many credits they will get, but that's where I feel it is.
And I think also the, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. So talking about teacher training programs, the NEP also has a provision for creating a national council for teachers where they will undergo training programs. Now that's on the anvil. So we have to wait for it to actually be executed. But at least they're thinking along those lines of creating a national council for teachers that will specialize in teacher training programs. And talking about the 4-year degree course, this is going to be implemented across all classes only in 2035. And I'm sure if it's a 4-year integrated BEd degree program, the salaries will also be commensurate with the kind of time the teachers are spending in specializing in that program. Because as of now, the BEd programs are very fluid. So some run for 9 months, some run for a year, some for 2 years. So they haven't been structured properly. So I don't think that, and then you have a Montessori teachers training program, you have NTE. So you have a wide range of teachers programs. So now the NEP wants to standardize all these programs and have one integrated teachers course. So whether you're a nursery teacher, a primary teacher, a senior school teacher, you would have gone through the 4-year integrated training program, and you'll come out well equipped to take any class. So I think all those barriers, social barriers that exist, that teachers who are teaching the senior classes think they're a cut above the others, and those teaching the primary classes, they feel that they haven't had that kind of experience. But I think that the most important years are the formative years, and the most difficult classes to teach are the primary classes. So that's where training has to be paramount, because you're dealing with small children and you have to be highly sensitive, and there are lots of other social skills that are required, interpersonal skills that are required to the learning program.
Thank you, ma'am. Nivedita, if you could,
yeah.
would you like to add?
Yeah, a very small bit.
Yeah.
Is there, what it says is, since I work very closely with a range of teachers, so the concerns are also very varied. What it comes out is that by 2030, the minimum degree qualification for teaching skills will be a 4-year integrated B.Ed degree, which teaches a range of knowledge, content, pedagogy, and all of that. The 2-year B.Ed program will also be offered for those who have already obtained bachelor's degree in any other specialized subject. Then these B.Ed program may also be suitably adapted as 1-year B.Ed program, and it will be offered to those who have completed an equivalent of 4-year multidisciplinary bachelor's degree. So if you're an engineer or a hotel industry or a BDA person, the dentist wants to also be a teacher, there is a 1-year B.Ed program for that, who will be equivalent. This will be considered equivalent of 4-year multidisciplinary bachelor's degree. Those who have also obtained a master's degree, they can also wish to become the subject teacher in that specialty by doing that 1-year course. So you will have a 1-year, a 2-year, a 3-year, and a 4-year B.Ed course, which will complement what you have done before. So it takes cognizance of anything you have put in your own learning development, because who is a teacher? You become a teacher with passion, and you also become a teacher with adding on to certain skill categories. So, so this actually is a very enabling aspect of NEP 2020, which wasn't there earlier.
Thank you. Thank you. And does it also say about the teacher who are already in the ecosystem? What about
the teachers who are already there in the ecosystem? It will completely calculate if you have done an undergrad degree, if you have done a +2 degree, what it also will calculate the years of experience. Because what else is more important than years of experience? See, when NEP has said that the schools will be encouraged to hire local eminent persons or experts as master instructors in various subjects, traditional local arts, vocational crafts, entrepreneurship, agriculture, which means it recognizes the inherent experiential value of a person, which brings into the learning. If they are talking of experiential learning, there is no way that the teacher's experiential learning will not be calculated while calculating their degree requirements.
Thank you. Thank you, Nivedita. I think that, it allays apprehensions of many, people. Thank you so much. The national education policy, while it sounds grand, is comprehensive in its own way, and perhaps the most ambitious proposals in the Indian education system so far. Dilruba ma'am, I would request you to elaborate on the challenges that you foresee in the implementation of this policy.
Okay, so the NEP is actually a grand document dealing with the education landscape in India in the 21st century. And I must say, a very ambitious document also. But its success will depend on effective implementation and execution. So when you're looking at implementation and execution, I find that the NEP has a lot of, they reams on the philosophical, the philosophy of different programs, right? And the philosophical outcomes. But there is no talk about an action plan. So what we really need is a robust action plan. What has to be done? How is it to be done? Who is going to do it? What are the timelines? What are the entities that have been identified so that their performance can be assessed? So there's no mention of that. And it's not just transforming classroom transactions. I think attitudes and values will have to undergo a sea change, and the entire school culture and ethos will have to change. right from leaders to teachers, parents, and members of the community to make it effective. So this program cannot be looked in isolation. We need to take all our stakeholders along with us. Also, when you look at the decision-making structures, those will have to be drastically simplified so that there's no red tapeism. There'll also have to be reprioritization of budgetary resources. Now, the NEP talks about 6% of the GDP, and it increases the public expenditure from 10 to 20%. Where are the funds going to come from? From the states. I don't think it's feasible at this point in time with the country reeling under COVID-19. So who's going to bear the brunt of it? The NEP also talks about bringing those 2 crore children who have dropped out from school education into the mainstream. How is that going to happen? You need heavy investment in infrastructure and a huge pool of teachers who will be able to implement the new design of the curriculum and understand the pedagogical needs of NEP. If you're talking about extending RTE right from age 3 to age 18, where is the infrastructure? Where are the teachers? Your infrastructure is abysmal. So these are major challenges which the NEP has not spoken about. And I think the most contentious issue is the 3-language formula. How is it going to be implemented? Now, when you talk about the 3, because this has come up in various debates, and it's a concern for parents, teachers, policymakers, and students. What does the NEP say about the 3-language formula? It says that all students will study 3 languages, and the mother tongue will be the medium of instruction till class 5 and preferably till class 8. Now, how do you interpret it? There's several questions that came up. Will it be mandatory to teach Hindi? Will the students have to learn Hindi? So last year, the NEP came forth with a draft where they said that learning Hindi will be compulsory in all non-Hindi speaking states, but that doesn't hold good anymore. The next question, how do you define the mother tongue? Will the local language be looked upon as the mother tongue? They haven't really elaborated on that. Will all the subjects be taught in the mother tongue? There is no elaboration. They've said that students will have the choice, they will have the flexibility to choose their languages along with the states. So the states, each state will decide upon the 3-language formula, and students will have the flexibility to choose the languages of their choice. But again, these are all, though they said it, the unanswered questions are several. Number 1, to what degree are you going to give students the flexibility to choose their languages? There is no mention of the degree of flexibility that the students will have, right? What happens when 2 parents speak different languages in the family? Which is the mother tongue? What happens when there are transfer cases, when parents get transferred? What becomes the mother tongue of the children? What happens, and this is a question that has come up repeatedly, what about schools where the medium of instruction is English? This has been a major concern. So what the NEP has said, and in a very ambiguous way, that it's preferred, that wherever possible, it might be implemented. And they use these words, wherever possible, at several places. So this is something that all policymakers, all educationists, all school principals can capitalize on, because wherever possible is so ambiguous, and there's a lot of scope to capitalize on that. So if it's wherever possible, it's not possible in our school. So these are merely guidelines. They're not directives. And so I think principals and proprietors of schools that have English as the medium of instruction, at least as of now, can rest in peace, because there are no stringent guidelines and we can always cash in on wherever possible. And it's not possible in our school. We have the leeway. We want to go ahead with English as the medium of instruction. So we can do so, because in that 3-language formula, what they've said is that 2 languages have to be native to India. So in Punjab, if a student is studying Punjabi, right, and English, the student can opt for any other regional language. So English will go ahead as one of the 3 languages that all schools will adopt, because, you know, Ila, even the children who come to our school, you know, what is the trust? They all want to learn English. They want to learn to speak in English. That's why they're at school. Because
even we want to teach them, ma'am.
Yes.
Even we want to teach them.
It's not a language at home. And it's a universal language. So if we're looking at them becoming productive members of a fast evolving global society, they need to know English. So English will go ahead as one of the languages. And I don't think we need to fear that it's going to be submerged in this 3-language formula, at least not as of now. We have enough latitude and we will definitely cash in on this. So these are some of the challenges that we can foresee in the implementation. Getting funds, of course, terrible, you know, resource crunch in the country at this point in time. There was a fiscal deficit even before COVID-19. And obviously this has got magnified. So I think in some ways the NEP has been badly timed, because everyone's looking at training programs and there's no money for the training programs. And the moment things reach stalemate point, they're going to be maybe, you know, consigned to the deep crevices of our memory. And that's it. Thank you.
I wish to thank all our panelists for an enriching session. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Uma. Thank you, Dilruba ma'am. Thank you, Nivedita. Over to you, Snehlata.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Ila. Thank you. It's been a wonderful session. And thank you, Dilruba, Nivedita, Uma, for highlighting the positive and progressive changes in NEP. And the problems are the, as we were talking about, the gray areas, things which are not mentioned. There was so much of clarification. I think we have brought a little more clarity on the NEP. As you said, it's 800 plus pages. So, to bring in everything within that, an hour and a half is impossible. But I think we brought in the highlights of the NEP. Thank you so much. I want to thank all our viewers for joining us today. A recorded version of today's webinar will be shared as a YouTube link. You can share with your friends and those who missed the webinar. The next is a fantastic webinar session that we have on the 5th of September. Mark your calendar on next webinar on Saturday 5th. A Teachers' Day special, Dreaming Big, Driving Change. A fireside chat with Rashmi Misra, founder chairperson VIDYA, the visionary who dreams VIDYA every day and holds the team together. Passion, courage, and conviction together with her team's effort is behind the growth and spirit of VIDYA. She started with 5 children, and we have educated and empowered over 375,000 students. And today, VIDYA has 78 VIDYA projects in 5 metros across India. Don't miss the golden opportunity to meet the dynamic lady behind the growth of VIDYA, the NGO. In our next webinar, Dreaming Big, Driving Change. Thank you all.
Thank you.